Ladies and gentlemen, right now the space is lacking clarity about what will happen next at the $53,000 resistance level. Will we break it or will we drop downwards for a pre-halving correction? That is a question that we've asked on this YouTube channel for weeks, and it's a question that seemingly every single YouTube video over the past month has been asking. But I'm going to be answering it to the best of my ability today, like usual, while also conceding that there is a degree of indecisiveness because we don't really have the sufficient evidence to be very, very confident. But I'm going to propose to you in this video, while of course looking at the new evidence that is available and looking at my favored scenario, I'm going to also be proposing that when you don't really know what's going to happen, you need to at least know what will happen when something happens. It's the importance of looking at those critical levels and understanding the scenarios that could play out so you can best position yourself to profit from them or at least lose less money if you are wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the content.
Guys, before we get into the content today, go to Telegram and check out my information and results group for my altcoin trading group, the VIP group for Wolves of Crypto. You can check out the payment information, the pricing details, and the PDF of all of the historical trading results, a 78.52% win rate. The links are below. The links below are also leading you to the BingX and BitGet exchanges. BingX is global non-KYC and BitGet is global KYC minus the USA. So anywhere but the USA. Take your pick depending on your location. Both very low in trading fees. Both never been hacked before. My links below will give you a 15% trading fee discount for life. And then finally, if you want to learn how to trade, you can do it on the Become a Trader 10-unit course developed by myself and another YouTuber called Mega Whale Crypto. We made this course with care. We structured it very well. It's a university-style course. Read up about it on the website and get in if you're interested in learning how to trade. Let's get into the content today, guys. Now, there has been huge division amongst my community, but amongst the market in general as to what's going to happen next for Bitcoin. This has been reflected through various polls, realistically for the last 2 weeks, but even longer than that. We look at a poll from 2 weeks ago. What will Bitcoin break first? This is before we got above 50K. It was basically 50-50. Then we go into, will Bitcoin drop below 40K again just after we got above 50K? And again, basically 50-50. I mean, a lot of people, 58% of people said would drop below 40K, but for the most part, it wasn't really a overly convincing poll. Then again, we go into another question. Do we think that Bitcoin will enter a super cycle? 50-50. Will the monthly candle close above or below 49K? 50-50. What will Bitcoin price be in 7 days? Above 50K or below 50K? 50-50. No one bloody knows. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't really know either. Okay? That's the reality. But there are things we can look at. There are more signs developing. There are possibilities that are growing. But overall, it is a bit of a conflicted time. Right now, we have ETFs, as you guys know. That's been around for about just under 2 months now, and mostly the inflows have been positive, but now we're seeing for the last few days the first signs of negative inflows, right? We had negative inflows, of course, back in January when the price was going down on Bitcoin, around 100 million per day negative, but mostly it's been positive inflows. Now we're going back into a period of time where we had a total net inflow of $0, so it was break even, and we had 330 million. Now we're back down to a negative 35 million. Net inflow. So I believe that obviously ETFs will be an overall positive thing for the Bitcoin price, but it's not permanently going to be a positive thing. There will be periods of time where selling pressure is actually exacerbated by ETFs, right? It's not like every single move is going to be led to the upside based on ETFs. It's like, no, this can go both ways, right? When the price go downwards and there's extra selling pressures coming by ETFs, that's going to exacerbate the downside moves. Now, it also means when the price rises upwards, it's going to exacerbate the upside moves as well. So it kind of acts as a, extra volume to the market. Generally speaking, from what we've seen so far, at least, that volume leads bullish, but it doesn't always have to be bullish. And that's why we're not ruling out, corrections, right? You can't rule out corrections. That's ridiculous. You can't just assume the market's going to go up forever. I mean, let's be real here, right? Let's take this seriously. We have a situation where Bitcoin at a 15-minute chart, ascending wedge broke down. Doesn't really mean too much, but if we're looking at it on the 4-hourly chart, we can see that Bitcoin's in an interesting situation, right? We have 53,000 US dollars up here in the top red line, 49K in the bottom red line. Obviously, 49K is a major support right now. Sorry, the internet's quite bad where I'm currently. And then 53K is a major resistance. And we can just look at that quickly from the weekly chart, right? 53K, the upper line. Resistance zone stemming back from 2021, stuff like that. Testing it right now. And then obviously 49K was a previous resistance zone. It's actually now a support zone because we're above it. yeah, so it's quite an interesting situation. We've got, you know, this ascending wedge formation that broke downwards. Now we're forming something that looks like a descending channel formation. It's hard to really say exactly what that is. Potentially could be even a, you know, descending triangle formation. There's nothing really clear right now. Nothing's really valid or confirmed. It could lead to the downside break, upside break. We don't know, because we don't know what that market pattern is at this point. That's the unfortunate truth. I think if you were to take it as it is, you probably could draw it best as some sort of descending wedge formation, but it's not a valid formation yet. So again, it's hard to exactly tell where the price will go based on the short-term charts. What I can do, and I can look at something that's quite new here, is look at the 4-hourly chart RSI. There's a descending resistance line on the 4-hourly chart RSI, right? Now that's obviously a bearish divergence, but what it also is, given the angle of trajectory, it's a spring for a bullish move. And what do I mean by that? Well, what we have right now is a support line that's formed over 3 separate candle retests on the RSI from the 21st of February. We have a resistance line that's formed going way back to the 9th of February. We have a dead line for this pattern that we formed right here around the 3rd of March, meaning that in the next few days, really, we will be seeing either a downside break on this RSI or an upside break and a spring to the upside in the price action, right? This could lead to another retest of 53K and a potential break of 53K, or it could lead to another retest of 49K. So that's the situation we're in here. Unfortunately, we can't really go further than that with analysis, because if it was the short-term charts alone via TA, it would be a much simpler story. But right now we have a situation, obviously, as I've discussed relentlessly for days on end, literally, we have a situation where we have a macro trend on Bitcoin. And the macro trend on Bitcoin is showing us an intercycle trend. The intercycle trend shows us that every cycle, the structure is the same. We form this Fibonacci trend where we have 0.618 on the Fibonacci lining up with a horizontal resistance line in yellow. We test it every single cycle around this time before the halving, and we see, in the past at least, we've seen a correction downwards both times just before the halving or around the halving. Not only did we reject from that Fibonacci line and the horizontal yellow line, we also rejected from 67 on the RSI, which gives these rejections and corrections extra validity. And we also, by the way, historically, have not broken above 67 on the RSI in the monthly chart, right, for 1,000 days from when we break down below it. So, for example, we broke down below 67 on the monthly chart RSI around here in February 2014. It took 1,000 days to get back above it. Same thing over here, broke down below it in February 2018. It took 1,000 days to get back above it. And if it takes 1,000 days to get back above it this time, right, it will take us until around August 2024. Getting above 67 on the monthly chart RSI lines up pretty well with getting above 53K. We get above 53K in August 2024. That would leave us in a good place to break all-time highs at around December this year, which is pretty consistent with the macro trends, which, you know, obviously the macro trends being it takes around 1,100 days to break all-time highs from the previous all-time high. I'm just saying a lot of words here, and if you haven't watched my videos in the past, you're not really going to understand what I'm saying, a lot of what I'm saying, but I'm going to have to skim through it because I've spoken about it so many times, it's actually making my brain ache, right? The fact of the matter is, here's the facts, here's what you actually need to know. And if you want more depth, you can look into my previous content. The fact is, there are existing macro trends on Bitcoin that suggests that we should correct around this region. We should go downwards for a few months and then come back upwards in around July or August and break this level and then reach all-time highs by the end of the year. That is what the macro trends, right, suggest. And they're real trends. They're not speculative trends. They're not like, you know, half-assed trends. They're real trends that exist. That's what the trends suggest. And so if Bitcoin was to break 53K, right, and head upwards from that point, you know, confidently break it, not like get above it for a day. I mean, like break it and flip it and go upwards, right? If Bitcoin was to do that, it would be breaking these macro trends. That is not impossible. We can break macro trends, but generally the trend is your friend until it ends. So we have to consider these macro trends real until they're not real. And right now, what would invalidate them? Well, what would invalidate them would be a monthly candle close. Look, here's the thing, right? I actually don't think a monthly candle close above 49K would invalidate these macro trends anymore, even though the yellow line is technically at 49K. I want to be seeing a break of 53K, quite honestly, because it's pretty clear that 53K has been proven to be the resistance level. So what would invalidate the macro trends? A break, a clean break, a clear break of 53K and continuation to the upside from there would break these macro trends and be the first step towards a deviation from regular market cycle for Bitcoin and would open the doorway to things like a super cycle, right? Because we would have done things that we haven't done before. We already know that Bitcoin has moved upwards massively, faster than it's ever really done. It's already ahead of the ball in regards to where it's meant to be in the cycle, right? We know that Bitcoin, and look, this isn't rocket science, right? Bitcoin has not seen downside price action at all, really, where it breaks lower lows since March 2023, sorry. So about a year, right? The last time we broke lows on Bitcoin, other than this brief break of lows here in January, right, last month, was actually back here in March 2023, and before that, it was the bear market back in 2022. So Bitcoin's just seen basically exclusively upside and sideways price action, which is generally pretty good, for basically a full year. We know that to be a fact, and we know also to be a fact that between September and now, which is only like a 5-month period, Bitcoin's 2x'd, in fact more than 2x, it's gone up 112%. Fact of the matter is, by any metric, by any macro trend standard, Bitcoin has moved very fast, especially in the last 5 months, a little bit too fast for the macro trends. And right now we're getting to a point where we're facing a judgment day within the macro trends. Because if Bitcoin moves any faster now, it's just going to go ahead and break them. Okay. And then again, that opens up doorways of unpredictability. But these are things I've discussed so many times. What you need to understand is that 53K is the critical level. And right now we don't really have much short-term clarity about what's going to happen at that level. We do have very clear charts that show us that, well, every single chart like Ethereum, total cryptocurrency market cap, and Bitcoin all have the same structure right now. And generally when all the charts have the same structure, being they're all rejecting from the same level and they've all got the same lines. For example, we have on Bitcoin here, 2 ascending support lines, one of them a macro one from the bottom and one of them a shorter term one. Same thing on Ethereum, same thing on total cryptocurrency market cap. And then we have 2 distinctive support resistance lines, right? A line here at 49K and a line here at 53K. The corresponding lines are 2,700 in Ethereum and 3,100. And then on total cryptocurrency market cap, the corresponding lines are 1.6 trillion and 1.95 trillion. Fact of the matter is, the structure of all of these charts are exactly the same. And what does it mean? It means everything is really relying on Bitcoin right now. Now, there's good signs for Bitcoin and there's bad signs. I would say that personally, this consolidation, this little bit of weakness we're seeing, quite frankly, here at 53K, along with the fact that the macro trends are suggesting a rejection from this region, probably bad signs. Obviously, the weekly chart as well has closed. Weekly candles closed just yesterday, just less than 12 hours ago. And we saw, what do we see? Basically a bearish doji formation at the top of an upwards trend. This could be a bad sign, because if you're looking at the last time we did something like this, like look at the candle structure we formed right now. Strong green candle and then a red candle with kind of an equal wick to the upside and downside. Last time we did that properly was way back here in March 2022, and it marked the peak of a major upwards trend before going downwards. And coincidentally, it marked a peak around the same level at 49K. We're at 53K now, but it's around the same level. So if we're following what we did in March 2022, this would be a correction coming here for Bitcoin. Of course, as well, we've got the weekly chart showing RSI, bearish RSI divergence. We're heading right towards the support zone. Maybe we get a bounce of that zone, maybe we don't. Maybe we go downwards and then we see a correction downwards to something like this red line, or maybe even the yellow line in the price chart for Bitcoin. I would say that the charts right now are actually leaning probably a little bit more bearish than they are bullish, but overall there's no real decisive answer. And I think that's very well reflected in the fact that no one has a decisive answer, because you look at these polls and you see 50-50, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50. No one knows what's happening next. That's the reality. All we can do is observe to the best of our ability, know what the levels are, right? That's what you do. When you don't know what's going to happen, you need to know what will happen if something happens, okay? Very important linguistic distinction there. When you don't know what's going to happen, you need to know what will happen if something happens. If we break 53K confidently, Bitcoin is very likely to continue upwards. If we do not, and if we go down below 49K, it is very likely to maintain this macro trend and correct downwards for 2 to 3 months before breaking upwards in around August to July above 53K and then reaching all-time highs at the end of the year. That's what's likely. Now, right now, if you put a gun to my head and you said, Wolf, what do you think is going to happen? I would say, I don't really know, but I'm inclined to trust macro trends. And given my inclination to trust macro trends, which everyone should have, okay, I would say that downside is probably more likely. But that comes from a place of half knowledge, right? So you have to understand the nuances. I'm sorry for boring you with these charts recently. I'm going to try and look at a more macro chart, a fresh chart tomorrow, but it just needs to be discussed. It's the most important thing right now, perhaps the most important thing right now. You know, this macro trend here and the fact that we're testing it is probably one of the most important things Bitcoin's done since the November 2022 bottom. So it's very, very important. Thank you guys for having patience and bearing with me throughout this repetitive time in content here. I've tried my best to mix it up. I've tried my best to keep it spicy, but it is what it is. So guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you tomorrow in the next video.